All right, thank you all for coming. We will now call to order the April 30th Committee of the Whole meeting. The Nebraska Open Meetings Act legislates the methods by which public meetings are conducted. Information pertaining to this act is posted here in the room. All right, Sheila, can we please get roll call?
Joanne Lynn Green.
Present.
Cindy O'Connor.
Present.
Emily Garrick.
Present.
Angela Blasey.
Present.
Mitch Wagner.
Present.
Skip Olson.
Present.
North Platte Public Schools is a destination school district and community that embraces innovative opportunities and distinguished programs to create highly competitive advantages for all students, instilling the canteen spirit in an evolving world. The canteen spirit embodies generosity, selflessness, and unwavering support through service, pride, collaboration, and grit. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the publication of the April 30th Committee of the Whole meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the publication of the April 30th Committee of the Whole meeting. Second.
Okay, Sheila, roll call, please.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Emily Garrick.
Aye.
Angela Blasey.
Aye.
Mitch Wagner.
Aye.
Skip Olson.
Aye.
Joanne Lynn Green.
Aye.
Motion passes. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda of the April 30th Committee of the Whole meeting. And I would like to make a quick note that there has been a change of order only from the original time that this agenda was sent out. So agenda has remained the same, order has changed. I would entertain a motion to approve that.
I motion to approve the agenda of this April 30th Committee of the Whole meeting.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Emily Garrick.
Aye.
Angela Blasey.
Aye.
Mitch Wagner.
Aye.
Skip Olson.
Aye.
Joanne Lynn Green.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Okay. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will start off this evening with our superintendent's report with Dr. McDonald.
You bet. So there's a unicameral report there for you to look at. I think I'll go over that first. And it's just some of the various bills that the governor did sign into law moving forward. The first one was LB 384. And this is the one where it would require one voting member of the governing body of each participating political subdivision must attend a required joint public meeting. That was the new language within that particular bill itself. LB 653 was also passed. It talks about enrollment option. It indicated that learning communities, if you're a district that you're not a part of a learning community, you must automatically accept applications for siblings of option students enrolled in the option school district without regard to capacity limits. So that was one change within enrollment option policy, and I'm sure there'll be some policy updates to that here over the summer months. Also, it talked about student discipline, talked about short-term suspension. It'll take effect that the student and parent's guardian or educational decision maker of the student must be given oral and written notice of the charges against the student and the student an explanation of the evidence of the authorities have and the opportunity to present the student's version of the events leading to the alleged conduct or violation. And then it goes on to explain that there is a written statement that is given within 24 hours of such additional time, not to exceed an additional 48 hours. The student will be explained of the student's conduct, misconduct, violation of the rule, reasons for the action that was taken, actions made by the school to try to discontinue or alleviate the behavior of the student, resources the school is able to provide or recommend to assist the student, and then how the school plans to handle such behavior in the future, including an additional plan aimed at maximizing strategies to keep the student in school. There's also a conference with this as well, that the principal must make a reasonable effort to hold a conference with the parent or guardian before or at the time the student returns to school and must document the effort in writing. It also talks about pre-K through second grade students for long-term suspension and expulsion or reassignment. It just indicates that on the date of the decision, a written charge and or summary of the evidence supporting the charge must be filed with the superintendent. The school must, within 2 days after the decision, send written notice by registration or certified mail to the student and his or her parent or guardian informing them of rights established under the Student Disciplinary Act. Again, so this again stems from all of the discussion that was centered around pre-K through second grade students that at one time, well, within the last couple of years, you couldn't suspend those particular students for any type of behavior or disruption, and they've reversed that now within this new bill, LB 653. LB 745 is another one out there. It's for GEDs. They're removing the 18th birthday requirement, so the Commissioner of Education can issue the diploma upon completion of their high school equivalency requirements. Apparently there was an 18th birthday requirement, so that was one for GED. And then A24 was the bill on retirement. It is taking the 180-day no work required and moving that to 120-day no work period of time. So that will go into effect, I believe, May 1st, I believe it will go into effect.
Yeah.
already. So, and then finally, LB 940 is in regards to just meals. On August 1st of 2027, it indicates that no public elementary or secondary school may offer or make available to any student any food served as part of a school meal that contains any of the following color additives, which would be blue 1, blue 2, green 3, red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6. And that it comes into play in 2027. So that's kind of the unicameral update. There are several other bills that were passed in other committees, but I will allow you to research that and read that on your own. So with that, there were several teaching and learning visits here the last couple weeks at Lincoln, Washington, Cody, McDonald, and Lake. We were able to visit with the principals, talked about curriculum, talked about data, current data moving forward, and what that will look like within the PLC process for next year. Backpacks are delivered every Friday, been a part of that at various schools across the district. We had weekly tech meeting updates. We talked a little bit about Infinite Campus updates. We talked a little bit about security in regards to some of the phishing and different things that we've been exposed to lately, and how to handle that and what has been handled. We've done a pretty good job in regards to that. We did have an incident for phishing that got into one of the staff emails, and then that kind of went out, but IT was able to grab that information real quick and didn't have a data breach on that. And so we're learning where those come from, because there's just little things within IC that people can get in from time to time, and so we've worked out the kinks there again moving forward. And then just other ways that we're assisting with the curriculum through apps and different things for classrooms. So we had school visits at Jefferson and Lincoln, and just attended DARE graduation here at Eisenhower today, and there's more coming. I think McDonald is next on Monday, and so we'll be attending those moving forward. Met with Tanner at Hub, talked about some workman's comps claims. We meet typically monthly with him just to go over where we're currently at with their claims and any adjustments. And then obviously we're in the season of where they'll be bidding out that process as well for where we're at with our future insurance for the district and all of our facilities. And then we just wrapped up, we didn't wrap up, but we had pair negotiations. And we had another meeting, and I think we're getting closer to a final agreement, but we will at least have one more meeting. So with that, I digress.
All right. Anything else for us tonight, Dr. McDonald? Thank you for that
I
update.
believe so, unless there's any questions you have.
Any questions from the board?
Mhm.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Okay, we will move into board engagement time right now. I will kick us off tonight, and I'm going to keep mine brief. I know we've got some board members with some other obligations this evening that we want to try to be cognizant of, which is actually why we rearranged the order of our agenda to ensure that should we need to take action on any items, we'll get there later, that all board members are present for that. So this past month has been a busy month, I think, for a lot of us. I enjoyed getting to join the high school media classes for a visit on their podcast as they interviewed those that are running for school board, and it was really cool for me to see that process from the inside rather than from the outside watching their productions. obviously it's an interest for me because that's what I do, but it was really cool to see just their level of professionalism. I was highly, highly impressed. Then I visited Cody Elementary. I happened to get to visit on their Immigration Day, which if you've never seen that, is pretty remarkable. Mrs. Reed and Mrs. Connick's classes get to go into the engagement lab, and it's very patriotic. All of the students are dressed as their own family members who may have at some point immigrated to the United States. They bring suitcases with them. They line up in the hallway and get to wait to go into the engagement lab, and they have a whole process where Mrs. Reed very seriously asked them a list of questions like, do you have a job? Do you have a place to live? Do you agree to follow our rules in our country? All those kinds of things. And then it was tied into, which I thought was very clever, their citizenship test was actually like a civics test that they then came in, and once they made it through immigration, they got to sit down and were rewarded with a test at the end, I guess. So it was great to see. Honestly, like they waited for a while and they were super excited and everyone was engaged. It was just really great to see that. I also got to visit Jefferson, and that visit has been rescheduled a couple of times due to illness this month, but I happened to visit at a time that I got to see quite a bit of action in the office, and I will just say those staff members probably deserve a trophy. And I also got to witness what lunch is like at Jefferson Elementary, which with some of their class sizes is a lot. They have to bring in some extra tables, so the lunchroom is definitely very full. And then overall, honestly, I was super impressed just by the staff and the students in that building. I saw some really great learning happening. But one thing, board members, if you've not visited specifically Jefferson, but honestly also Cody and probably a couple other of our elementary buildings, some of our class sizes as we've grown this year are getting up there. So there are classes of 30 students at Jefferson, which I think as a board we need to be really cognizant of, because I personally don't love class sizes of that size. So those are things that we need to be aware of and work on hopefully remedying in the future. Goodness. Also visited the high school this month and had some good conversations with Mr. Spatansky about some challenges in the building. We discussed some safety and building needs, some administrative challenges that they see there. Overall, I was super impressed. I really, truly did not see a cell phone while I was there, which is awesome. But beyond that, I remember when I visited the high school even just a few years ago, there was a lot of action happening in the hallways during the daytime. And truly, like, there were no students in the hallways. I was very impressed because that means they're in the classrooms and that they're learning and engaged and those types of things. So overall, a really great visit at the high school. And I will wrap mine up there. Who's next?
Me.
Go ahead, Joanne.
I was able to attend one of the performances of the spring play. It was Dracula Rides Again. It was a very creative and lighthearted show. We even had a cameo by Mr. Spatansky, which I was sitting far enough back that I was there with my daughter, and when I was sitting there, I had to lean over to her and say, "Is that Mr. Spatansky?" And she's like, "I think it is." And then she goes, "Those are his tennis shoes." So his shoes gave it away. But it was a really fun show, and they had a good crowd the night that I went, and it was just really, really a good show. Then I was able to visit Lincoln Elementary on the 22nd, and was shown some of the changes that have happened in the building since I was there last year. Visited Jefferson on the 23rd. I was not there over lunchtime, but I did go into several of the classrooms and did see numbers going up. I know that also because they are one of our EL schools, that their EL population there is a little bit higher, and so there's definitely some unique challenges that exist in that building, but overall it was a good visit. Then on the 27th, I was able to go to Buffalo Preschool, and honestly, that's one of my favorite places to go. One of the kiddos, after I visited their classroom, they were on their way to music class, and he actually came back down the hall, grabbed my hand, and wanted me to come with him to music class. So that was a lot of fun to get to be there and to see all of the great things that they're doing there at Buffalo. And then today, I was able to go out to the lake, and they were having a STEM day. I was able to visit a classroom that they were actually making their own bouncy balls, and so they were learning about oh no, I have to think about it. It was tied into to the sun, because the bouncy balls, when you took them out in the sun, that it would make the balls glow. So it was, they have these little booklets that have different lessons, and conservation is, and so it was tied into, I guess the other day they made, interestingly enough, toilet bombs to help clean the toilets, and I guess the janitor told them that they were all hired because their toilet bombs did such an excellent job of cleaning the toilets. So they're getting to learn some really fun things. I was also able to go into a kindergarten classroom, and they had a little robot track, so they were learning how to build the pathway for the robot. That was really interesting because there's a student that I learned about who has an impairment, and so I was able to learn some of the accommodations for that student. I was able to see a classroom that was doing a reading lesson, and then also went into the PE class, where unfortunately there was a youngster who I guess had seen a movie over the weekend and had decided, or that they were had gotten attacked by a shark, and so they had their arm tucked up in their shirt, and were having to do a lot of interesting things that way. But I guess they were wanting to kind of live that experience in real life without having to actually be attacked by a shark. So just a lot of fun, and it's always interesting to go into the buildings and to see the different challenges that students face, and just the resiliency of the people that we have that work in our buildings, and being able to work with kids that are dealing with challenges. I think when I went to, well, pretty much all of the schools except for Buffalo that I went to had the students in and out of the office, and just dealing with some different things throughout the day, and so it was a good visit. So, and I have completed all of my school visits this year in a matter of just a couple of months. So. Good job. That's it.
I'll do mine real quick because it'll be shorter than yours. I just popped into the schools in my ward for Administrative Professionals Day, and everybody in all the schools, not just the ones on my side of town, but they just run those offices so amazing. So I see you, I thank you. Appreciated to walk in there and see them all handling students or doing their paperwork, all the things. They just run very smoothly. So that's all. Pretty good.
Yeah, on Friday, April 17th, my wife and I also attended Dracula Rides Again. It was kind of a mix of a comedy, melodrama type play. Mrs. McDaniel, as usual, had a large cast, which is really, really good. And yes, Mr. Spatansky played a part of the Clanton gang, and he had a great death scene. Now, you'd say that, but it was well done in a comedic way. So, kudos to him. And Mrs. McDaniel, for, the cast was just outstanding. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Also on Monday, April 20th, I visited Washington Elementary. I was toured by 2 school ambassadors, Valencia Tapia and Luke Neal, who took me around the school to all the rooms and told me where we were going, what we were going to see. It was extremely well done. They explained all the rooms. We went outside and watched the first graders and kindergartners at recess. And I got it interesting that a lot of the little ones knew those 2 and would come up and hug them. And I thought that was really neat. But I watched all the different activities going on at the time, and I thought it was real interesting. They were all involved. They were all having fun. Also, at the front door of Washington, they have a wall of fame that's on the right side as you come in the front door. And that student that is there with a picture of the student who has been nominated by a teacher for something that he or she did. And so their pictures are there, and it underneath tells you what it is. And then, of course, all kinds of stuff going on in the classrooms. PE, they were inside the gym running because they were going to go outside and play ball. So he was warming them up. It was a great visit. Also, I attended the undergraduate awards night that was held at the high school. The freshmen, sophomores, and juniors were recognized. Mr. Byrne and Mr. Butler did a great job. I was impressed with Mr. Butler being able to do all those names. He did very well with it. It was an enjoyable evening, and then they had a little reception afterwards. And just shows all the good things that we have going on in our schools and the rewards that we give kids as well.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to add before we move on? Okay, at this time we will go into public comment. Public questions and comments may take place at this time in the agenda. Individuals who want to address the board must complete a guidelines for public comments form with the date, topic addressing, name, address, and the name of any organization you represent, and give it to the board clerk prior to the meeting.
I have none.
Okay. All right, we will move on to the rest of our agenda. So, the reason we're all here, we'll start with our Adams Middle School report.
Okay, this is Miss Kelly. Miss Kelly is one of our computer gurus. So she I gave her a whole bunch of information, and she created a canvas for us. So she's going to go through that with the notes. I'll help her out a little bit. She informed me. But I'll do the clicking. I'll help you. You know, we practiced it. And hopefully since I'm the clicker, it works.
We had to showcase our amazing yearbook. Miss Letourneau really took our yearbook and made it something fun and engaging for her students. And this is the cover if you guys end up getting it, if one of your students is here. They went off of like the phone vibe of when you open your phone, what do you see? What's the screen you see? How many photos do you see? So we're going to go over our vision and values, our goals, what our teams are here as far as staff. We have amazing staff. As well as some professional learning that we have done and how our activities are working here at Adams. I wish I could just...
I'm going.
So we wanted to make sure, it started, I know, last year, especially with Guiding Coalition under Mr. Ayers, and it's evolved over time, and we've changed and turned into kind of a different group where we piggybacked off of our mission for North Platte Public Schools and broadened it into what it meant for Adams. For Adams, we are a school that inspires a culture of growth where students are encouraged to invest in their future, build integrity, and develop skills through academic and extracurricular opportunities that enrich our community. Our students are our future, so we need to enrich them and make them more. So we had some goals this year. Our top goal was to overcome chronic absenteeism for our students. We needed to lower it by 5%. That was based on previous year's data. Then we also moved on to reducing the number of office referrals or administrative referrals that required some sort of disciplinary action. The goal was to reduce the overall behaviors from the beginning of the year, so from August to the end, which we're not quite there yet, by 10%. That was a goal based off of past years. We needed something to strive for. Then we needed to move into completing schoolwork listed on our ICU program. As when you guys were here last year, we talked about implementing the ICU program, encouraging our students to complete and turn in assignments timely or relatively timely, depending on sickness, sports, athletics. We wanted to take that from first quarter's numbers, which was hopefully around that 69%, to roughly having 75% of assignments turned in by the end of this year. I'm encouraging those students to do well, encouraging them to learn more, have buy-in to their own academics. And then by the end of the year, we wanted to increase our reading proficiencies, our science proficiencies, and our math proficiencies, which relate along those district standards that you guys have already set. So we piggybacked off of those, and Marie gets to talk about those later.
Just do that.
I know, I should just do that. So this is one of my favorite charts that I put together. We looked at data year over year for chronic attendance. That is a struggle that we have faced, and you can see the way our data comes together. We started back in 2017, 2018, and you can see where that COVID year hit, and then what we have been trying to fix since then. Encouraging students to be in class, encouraging parents to bring their kids to school. Our goal was to go from last year to this year by 5%. As you can see, it's gotten better. From the 2023 year to current, we've improved almost 8%. Getting kids back into the classroom, getting them engaged on time to each class, not run the hallways. It is a beautiful struggle bus. Next year, we're probably going to adjust our goal based on our student data. Our current 7th graders, if we go to the next slide, you can see that our current 7th graders are kind of where we have a struggle. Our 7th grade class has brought a lot of challenges this year, and you'll see that as we go on. But our 8th graders, future freshmen, they've done really well improving. We've improved just this year in general, month over month. And so next year, we'll probably adjust that goal. Instead of it being 5%, we will probably bring it down to something more between 4 and 4.5 to meet the expectation of this specific class, as well as the one coming in based on the data that we're getting also from Madison. One of our deals that we have tried to work for this year is our referral goals. We really wanted to have an improvement by 10% this year. One of our biggest problems was not quite understanding the student demographic that we were getting this year. That brought its own host of challenges. And so if we go forward, you will see what some of that data looks like. And can look scary, but we compared it year over year. We also compared it month over month for you guys to see. So this is what Adams looked like. And these are referrals per school day. So per school day that we are here. You can see we started in August and you saw a steady trend. It is most shocking in January when we came back from Christmas break. It was some very startling numbers. We had some significant behaviors, and finally we had an incline down. One of the biggest struggles that we had was we didn't have a lot of breaks. Students didn't have a lot of time off. We also were combating a struggle in our ISS room. We had a para who the kids liked. She wasn't quite as stern, I think, as we needed to be. They really liked her, and she was a great person. They wanted to hang out with her. And so if you were not a kind person to someone, you got to go hang out with her for the afternoon, and she was a lot of fun. We've since made a change, and you can see that in February. We have a new ISS para, Mrs. Long. She's fantastic. She is emboldening those students, holding them accountable, keeping them on a tight schedule, encouraging them to get their work done, encouraging them to stay on task. Even though they are in the ISS room, they are still completing their assignments. she doesn't let them get away with much, and she's a really fantastic asset to us. You can see the difference by them not having a break and or teachers not having a break. It affected some of their behaviors. Some of this data, when you look year over year, some of it is in direct comparison to the incoming 7th graders we had. We did take a look at the numbers that Madison had last year, just to have it apples to apples. Their data last year with this specific class doubled last year. So those 7th graders that were 6th graders last year, they literally doubled their referrals. We made a goal not necessarily knowing that data. So when we made that projection of how we were going to improve, we weren't quite understanding what we were signing up for when they came in.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
So are you looking at the 6th grade data so that you're more prepared for next year then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We wanted to look and see if we could show an actual trend of, is this something that unfortunately is going to follow them up next year? Sorry, Mr. Spansky, probably. It was kind of shocking to see that, but it also gave us a little bit better insight and helped us have better expectations of these students. I think had we known at the beginning of the year, we would have made a different projection. Ms. Brocious and I talked about it when we were putting this data together. Had we known, we would have made different choices, which now has just incentivized us to talk to Madison, get that data again, and also see if we can make improvements in any other places too. You can see here that this year's data is gray. This last teeny tiny bar, because April wasn't quite done when we pulled this. You can see the improvement, and you can see where we struggled. January, February was rough. Those students had no time off, neither did staff. We had some challenges. We had some weather challenges. Mother Nature was not kind to us with the ups and downs. Those kids wanted to be outside because it was oddly beautiful in those months. They didn't want to hang out with us in the classroom. So that definitely factored into play.
I think also what's interesting, I just want to bring this up, is our data is very similar to Madison. So like if you would put their data from the past few years overlap ours, it's very similar. They had very similar situations happening at Madison last year and the years in the past. So we always communicate, Robin and I, or we have in the past, but this is just kind of what we call as a bubble year with behaviors. And we're working through it and helping them out. We're doing several different things to help them.
Yeah. And they're great kids, and they recognize when they've made a poor choice, so it's not as though it's a very gross bubble. It's just, it's the year, and I think next year we'll actually see it improve even better, just based on the staff that we have and the policies that we have in place and understanding the data now. So we have an ICU goal, like we talked last year. We implemented the ICU program in order to encourage those Tier 1, Tier 2 students. Those are the students that we feel that we can still impact the most, get their missing work turned in, give them an opportunity to seek extra guidance, keep track of that. It also encouraged better parent communication. The minute that your student was placed on ICU, you got an email. It said, hey, you're missing this math CSA, you're missing this math CFA. And parents have enjoyed it. The feedback we've gotten has been fantastic. They love that direct line of communication. Mrs. Padansky's actually been wonderful as far as sending out a lot of information to parents of, here's your child's missing assignments. Your kid's got over 15. Here's their list. Here's their statement of to-dos. And it's really helped them. It's been encouraged by them participating in Wednesday school. But we changed kind of what we ended up doing. If we go to the next one.
Can I pause you for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Would you be willing to provide context for those who don't speak education speak what Tier 1 and Tier 2 means?
Do you want to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Just so everybody's
No, that
like,
explains it better than me. Well, because she did. So Tier 1 is those kids that are not really, I mean, they're students that don't struggle as much. Okay. So Tier 1, sometimes they slip through the cracks because they're Tier 1 and because we don't have those things in play to help them out. Tier 2, they're getting to where they really need a little bit more help. Tier 3 is where Christian and I would probably step in and do a lot more. But ICU, and those of you that don't know what ICU is ICU is a program that's dedicated in education to help, as a team of teachers, help students out. So this year we also embraced the middle school concept to help with the ICU. So we have a core of teachers that work together to help students so they can get things done and achieved. So if you're on the ICU, that whole team of people know that you're not getting your work done. And you sleeping in class, ooh, you might be having a teacher kind of remind you, you have that ICU. And we have homeroom in the morning and the afternoon. They go through that list as well as, like she said, the communication with the parents. Whereas before we have IC, but that's usually when something is already graded and they see what the grade is. So, does that help out? Does that answer the question?
Perfect. I was tracking with you,
Okay.
but then I was like, not everybody's a
No,
former
you're
teacher.
okay. Because it's been great. We do have a lot of tier 1, tier 2 students who, they're out for sports. I mean, we're in the huge track flow right now, and they are gone, and they might miss a lesson. They have an assignment. They just need to make sure they get it completed. Here is our first quarter. This was where we started. You can see our total missing assignments was a little over 3,000. We were also compiling this at the same time as implementing the grade cleanse. It was really encouraged that if we implemented this program, we needed to also go through, evaluate our grading practices, evaluate our CFAs, our assignments, our tests, find out what is quality versus quantity, find out what is actually reaching them. I mean, the students of today are not the same students we had 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, and we need to evolve with them because they don't learn the same way. So our goal was to meet them where they are. And this was our beginning data. We were getting roughly 69% completion, and this is not assignments as a whole. This is assignments that are just missing at one time and then completed. So those assignments that were completed in class, handed in that day, that does not factor into this data. So we did this quarter over quarter. Thank you, Mr. Bradley, for my beautiful graphs. You can see as it goes on, our total assignments are going down. We were consistently meeting in our morning meetings, trying to continually revise our grading practices, what we considered an assignment. Did it have value? Did we need to reteach? Was it getting the information we needed, and were they learning from it? As we went into third quarter got a little more murky. That coming back from that break, everybody gets in a little bit of a slump. It happens. So that incomplete section, we had to revamp, we had to revise, we had to re-incentivize our students. We do have a group that is our tier 3 students who do require more. They don't respond to normal incentives. They also have a little bit more behavior. We had to try to find a better way to reach them. They slip through the cracks. It is very hard to incentivize those students, and that's where we see this here. We had some students that were ranging between 15 to 25 missing assignments. They just didn't see value. So we're trying to change that narrative. And then as we go on, fourth quarter, which is what we are in right now, this data is absolutely incomplete just because we're not done with the year. So right now we're at about a 50-50 split, but you can see on our total assignments, our grading cleanse is working. We've gone through, we've found that there is value to certain things, and we're trying to change that. We're trying to help our students. What else do you want to add? Because I feel like I'm missing something.
Those percentages you and I figured out.
Oh, yes.
They're pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah. So we went through, we wanted to make sure that what we were assigning students was real and relevant. We have had struggles with some of our teachers getting buy-in, as you do with every program that we get, or you understand that. We have had to work to change the thought process of what ICU is. We struggled in second quarter where we did have some teachers that wanted to use this as a consequence for sleeping in class, or, oh, I can't sit still, I gotta swivel in my chair, I just don't wanna pay attention. It's not a consequence. It was supposed to be an opportunity for them to learn those good practices for when they made it to high school, so that we don't have anybody repeating a class. So that is a struggle that we have faced. It is a continuation, but through the research, we tried to find out what a good average per week that a student should see as far as an assignment. A student should not see any more than 2 actually graded assignments in a specific class each week. If you do the math, how many students do we have here?
A lot.
Good answer.
540, didn't we?
500, yeah, 540
Roughly.
So we did kind of a rough estimate because I wanted to see what that looked like data-wise. So I took those numbers of students based on not many assignments, based on the number of weeks in school, and we are essentially assigning over 1 million assignments to our students here at Adams. That is what a reasonable amount would be. Our goal when we did this was to try to figure out if we could see maybe 2% hit ICU. We're actually below that considerably. It was like it wasn't even 1 point, it was like 0.75.
Yeah.
So when we make our goal for next year, because our goal was kind of a shot in the dark because we had not done this program before, reasonably having 2% hit this actual data sheet is really great. And that actually shows us that although our ICU data might look a little yucky as far as complete to incomplete assignments, we're actually trending really well for students getting their work done and turned in and less things hitting ICU. So the program is working. We're just going to plan to continually evolve throughout this year and next year. So year to date, this is what it looks like as far as assignments. So when I said that we looked at over 1 million assignments, okay, for our students, you can see that this year alone right now, as of April 21st, we had only assigned 15,000 assignments that has hit ICU. Out of 1 million, that's pretty great. So that means that our assignments are doing work in class, they're seeing value in it, they are turning it in timely. So I would consider that a huge success. So with ICU, we do incentives. So our incentives have been all over the place. One of them was bringing the community in. Kiwanis was fantastic. They wanted to come in and at some point host a pancake feed. It was great. We did it in the morning. Students came in, students that were not on ICU, okay? No missing assignments. And we had a specific cutoff date. They got a band, and they got to go down and eat some pancakes. And they had a blast. We let them take their phones, you know, 'cause phones is a thing, but we let them take them, and they had a glorious time. I think we hate syrup, but it was great because the community came in, they showed them that they mattered, they fed them, which food is a huge incentive for them, and they got to miss out on a little bit of class to celebrate their success, that they worked hard. So, and who doesn't like pancakes? Tag, you're in.
Oh, man. Okay, so part of our site plan was a proficiency goal was by the end of the current school year, the 60, 75, and 60. That all has to do with what at the beginning of the year that we talked with teaching and learning about having. The next one shows, this is something else that Lindsay and Vicki gave us, and you guys have probably already seen this, but we were looking at, these are our 7th and 8th graders and how they have gone through the years. And you, my librarian loves these. They're not my always friend. But you'll see that it changes and varies throughout. We would like to see, obviously, it to be a little bit more consistent, but that just comes with consistency and growing for a student. So that was the math. This is the reading. It's the same thing. We're still getting up there. This is our 7th graders, and they still provide us with a little challenge occasionally. Cell phones has gone awesome. Like it says here, we've only had 81 office referrals this year, which you're like, 81, that's too many. Not really. 81 is pretty slim. So what our kiddos do is they come into homeroom in the morning, they exchange their phone for their computer. It used to be that they could have their computer all day, not anymore. They don't take them home, so that way we don't have so many different social media issues and everything on our computers. Their computers are charged, they're ready to go, and then we get their phone as well. So it's just been a nice, snap, easy thing to do. It's a positive culture. Our kids are talking to each other in the lunchroom. We brought board games. They like to play cards. Some of them might gamble 21 a little bit. Dominoes. Our Hispanic boys like to play dominoes and do the, what?
Don't ask me.
I don't know what it is either. They have this some game and they tried to teach us and I wasn't. But it's really cool. It's an interaction that they never used to do. They used to be on their phones a lot. So it's been an awesome thing. Our tardy intervention, we just started this third quarter. Adams really struggles with getting our kids on time. We only let them have 3 minutes, and that's plenty of time to get back and forth, and we don't let them use the restrooms during passing, just causes too much drama. But we have those kids that like to socialize. They don't have their phones anymore and all that, so we had to find a way to get this to go down. We're still working on this, but one of the things that we decided to do, Miss Kelly has been doing this because she is our person in charge of the ICU pretty much. And before, when we first started the ICU, we were trying to do a lunchtime ICU, and that did not work just because it's too quick. And Carney said they had a hard time with it too. So instead, she now gets to do the tardy program. So we have a tardy. So Christian does the Thursday school. He'll set that with how many tardies do they have to have? 10. And the first consequence is they have tardy school. He calls their parents. They stay after school till 5:30. If that doesn't help, they get to go to Mary Beth and they get to write letters to their teachers and do this whole program that she found to help them talk about why is it important to be on time in class? Why are you missing? What is the deal? It's not just hurting you, it's hurting the other people in class and things like that. And it also makes the parents well aware because you're writing a letter to parents. Now she also put in there, if she gets the parent letter back signed, they get one less day. So that makes it nice. This is just our nuts and bolts, and I want to thank you guys for letting us take our middle school staff down last summer to Oklahoma City. It was an interesting trip. Mr. Barry drove. He loves to drive, and let's just say, it's interesting driving at times. All of us in those school minivan or buses has been interesting, but thank you very much for letting us go. We got a lot of ideas and that needed to change, especially for middle school. Middle school is really something that is important. I got elected onto the middle school state board this year as well, so I'll be representing us this summer when we have our meetings, so we can get some more ideas to help us out. Middle school is very unique. And as you guys remember when you were middle schoolers, life is a little hard when you're in middle school. And so this got us some more ideas, even our PE teachers, and this is Madison with us as well. So, and then later, was it this winter that we went, Kylie? I took some more teachers down there to Omaha to the Nebraska one, and the speaker there was amazing. And it made our teachers feel better because a lot of our teachers this year have kind of struggled and have taken it personal that some of our kids are they're just kind of ornery. They're middle schoolers, and it's hard to keep them on track. And it made them feel better to realize it happens everywhere. They are middle schoolers. It's okay. Go ahead. You went backwards.
How am I?
Okay. And this is your favorite picture. So this is showcasing our staff. We decided this year, I worked with Mr. Mills on talking about how to make my staff or our staff help each other more this summer. And Christian and I would meet with them every morning the first quarter, one of these teams, to reflect on the ways to help our middle school. So the first one that we have on here is our SIP team. These are our teachers on our SIP team. So it's Rochelle, Adam, Angie, Shauna, Rhonda, Eric, Tiffany, Ruth, Ty, and Jen. And we all got together at 7:30 in the morning, and our purpose is to talk about our continuous improvement plan in a roadmap to help our students. So one of the things we talked about is middle school students struggle with doing multiple choice questions when it says, what if? And we talked about how can we help that in our classroom. And every one of these teachers are on a different team, like core team, that they can take it back and talk to their core classes about it. So it really was an amazing experience, or it has been. Now we only meet twice a month. This is our leadership team, which includes Tiffany Johnson, Jen Teets, Artie Parker, Mike Buchanan, Rachel Greenwood, Kylie Root, Deidre DeGarmo, Lenore Weatherly, and Brian Watkins. So that's one person from each one of our core teams as well as our Explore. And then we also have Jen Teets in there, who is our Resource 3. That was our leadership team where we bring everything together. So if we have any problems or ideas or things that we need to talk about a big school, they help each other. Our biggest thing is we needed to remember our Bulldog community, or I like to call it our Bulldog family. Then our ICU, which we just talked about, Mary Beth is on there. Mike Brownwell would come to school early every morning, and our 7th and 8th graders could go in there and have him help them out with any homework they had. And then Mrs. Walters would take care of the afternoon, so that she would stay till 4 to work with the kids in the afternoon to help them. And we shared that information several times with parents so that they knew that that option was there. Miss Henny is one of our resource teachers, so she was there too. She would be willing to help them out. And like I said, the other ones, like Barry is on 7th grade, so is Terry, Mark Nicholson, Shane Berkey, Kylie DeSursa, Jake Hazenhauer, Teresa Ditterding, Amber Willard, and Brandon Baxter. So is everybody. All right, then our last one, the one that helps us write this whole thing and getting our goals, which is our counselors. So Jen Schlager, Lila Jo Childs, Carrie Brownwell, Terry Johansson, Tara Foster, Sky Story, Miss Nina, Miss Luz, because I'm not even going to attempt saying their names because I'm terrible at it. Stacy Hansen, Janelle Otzel, and Peggy, our librarian who loves these. And they met mainly to help us out to set goals for us that we have to do for the state. So I wanted to also say that ICU is one of the things when they came and visited our schools that they had suggested from Kearney. So we had gone last spring, I think, and went and visited Kearney to see how they implemented ICU and how successful it was for them. All right, Boys Town. Our Boys Town person is amazing. She has kids in there all the time. She does small groups as well as talks with kids individually. They visited us in September, January, March, and they went through our rooms. It's like, 5 minutes that they go through, guys? And they observe, now, which is great, and this is very nice. Also, see, it's almost to 100. This is that we're supposed to be praising students every minute. If you've ever sat in a middle school room and tried to praise a student every minute, yeah, that's pretty darn good right there, I think. Our activities is awesome here at Adams. We have this amazing thing, and where is he? Is he still here?
Mr. Pinkley, he might have to leave.
Mr. Pinkley. Activities in middle school is great because it's the first time they really get to see it in a public school setting. And it can spark and make them actually kind of like school. I know that's what did for me, is it helped me want to achieve things. So activities is very important here at Adams the first time. Our activities here at Adams not only bring our students and staff together, but also fosters a team mentality. We encourage all students to participate in creating a feeling of family. In turn, they encourage students to work hard both in and out of the classroom. Our teams have collaborated, set aside time at the beginning of practices for students to work on ICU, supporting our students to academic goals. So this is something new that we will be doing next year. So if they're on ICU, they miss part of practice. And it's not part of practice that they're warming up at. It's part of the fun part of practice, which they're not going to like next year, I'm sure. But this is something that we'll be implementing next year.
Okay, it's the video.
Awesome, go for it.
I know, I just hope it's not.
So here, okay. So these are all of our active, So that is it, and I want to thank all my staff our staff that came to support us. They're rather amazing, and thank you for putting it all together. Thank you for coming, and that's all we got for you. So, and Christian gets the data. He's the data man for us. Those of you who don't know, he does way better doing the data than I do. Okay, thank you.
Next year.
Oh, I forgot.
You forgot next year.
All right, then these are next year. I thought that was.
No, sorry.
It's okay. What we want to plan on for next year is deeper collaboration, like I said, the middle school concept. This year we really had a hard time getting our Explore teachers into our team meetings. So what we're going to do is instead of having those team meetings, like I said, the ICU, the Guided Coalition, all that, every week or even every other week, we're probably going to only do those once a month. And we're going to get our Explore teachers into our core classes and have meetings in the morning at 7:30. So that our teams, so our Explorer teachers will be associated with a team, so a 7th grade white or 7th grade blue. Whereas right now we don't really have that. We did that a long time ago when James was here, but we kind of got away from it because scheduling is kind of hard with that. We want to do a deeper review of the grading cleanse. It's really hard as teachers sometimes for us not to assign things that are busy work and put that onto as a grade. So we're working on that. We've done a book study on it, and we still are working on it during our PLC time. And that's just one of those things that we're going to have to work on because historically, that's what you did. You graded everything. But that's not what we need to be doing, especially for middle schoolers. We need to do some more hands-on. We're promoting the Bulldog Grit Pass for students. The Bulldog Grit Pass is where if they have to go to all their teachers, get it signed, and they will have their Bulldog poster here. We're just starting this year. At the end of the year, they're voting on each other so that for service, they have to lift each other up, lead with kindness, because we make a difference. We have pride. We respect Adams with respect, responsibility, and Bulldog strength. We collaborate. We work together, we value everyone's voice, and we grow as a team. And we have grit. We push through the challenges, stay strong, and never give up. So that is what the Grit passes with. This is what makes them be able to have their teacher sign that. If their teacher sees, like if they're doing something that's not showing that grit, they can take it away. And they won't have that on their card. Grit passes make it so they can have free popcorn at games or things throughout the year. That's what we plan on doing. Our new award at the end of the year is, I'm kind of a corny person. We bought them little plastic canteens that said each team has a person they're going to select. There will be a canteen spirit award. So a boy and a girl from each team. Are we done now?
Yes. I know, I was too efficient, I apologize.
Wow.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions before we let Mrs. Brushes off the hook too far? Please, no.
I hope we got all. Mary Beth covered a
That
lot.
was pretty thorough.
Yeah, that was a great presentation.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Okay. All right. Well, our next agenda item, you'll see we have a discussion here to discuss and consider possibly, if we wish to take action, we can tonight, making an amendment to this school year calendar. So you'll see under the rationale there's just been some changes that we've done in the calendar over the past few years. Part of that change was with flex days. Part of that change has been with dismissal time. And so what happened this year was the end of the school year event was scheduled with the assumption that things were going to be done the same way that they were done in the past, but there are a lot of teachers that will actually officially be done for the school year on that last day of school, depending on how they may have used that flex time. And that day is a 2:30 dismissal. So the potential issue that was brought to me was that for a number of our buildings that have a large number of staff members, the time for them to all be checked out of their classroom is going to probably be longer than 30 minutes or an hour long. And so just taking that into consideration, I said, well, we can sure put it on the agenda and we can talk about it. So one suggestion was that we can leave the schedule the same, which of course is an option, and potentially move that event time back. I still think, having been a teacher that has had to check out of classrooms, it just does take a while. So I'm not sure that that totally solves the issue, but it is one way to address it, and I know that the foundation is willing to do that. Another option that was brought to us, given the fact that the district has not had any weather-related days, we should knock on some wood right now after that late April snow, since there have not been any weather-related days, and there are some things definitely worthy of celebrating with our scores throughout the district, a number of things that maybe the board would wish to consider an earlier dismissal on that day as kind of a boost in morale and a thank you at the end of the school year. So there is the context for why this is on the agenda. I would like to open this up for any discussion or questions that board members have. Dr. McDonald, if there's any information you want to share with the board on potential impacts that an early dismissal might have on our buildings, anything like that, we'll open this up.
Well, I think even if we leave it at 2:30 and the foundation pushes it back to 4, that still really doesn't give them that much time.
No.
And nothing's going to happen on that day anyways. I mean, the kids are done and the teachers are done. And I say we let them out.
I agree. Yeah. Actually, this was brought up at our foundation meeting 2 weeks ago. And they asked my opinion. And I said, well, for myself, I would say, yeah, let them out. But I said I can't speak for the other 5 people. But I think considering that, and I know, as you said, Emily, checking out process can be very lengthy. And so I don't see any problem with letting them out at all early.
Why would it be a 2:30 or 12:30 dismissal? Why not just say noon?
Which I,
Let's say whatever you'd like.
yeah, I mean.
I say no
30.
school that day.
It depends on
Okay,
what
never
you-
mind, never mind.
It would be on how you make the motion.
Yeah.
For the
Yeah, so
time.
that would be a question. I mean, I think that's a Dr. McDonald question as far as the scheduling in our district, knowing that this is a decision we only have, a couple weeks to communicate out to the district. What type of dismissal causes the least disruption as far as scheduling within our buildings that have, bell schedules and things that we work, but also with serving lunch and all of those types of things. Those are the things that I think we need to, if we make a decision, we need to be cognizant of how that affects. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't have any necessarily preference either way. I think that it just came down to this year's calendar was a little bit different than what it was in the past, and some of the things were remaining the same within our other organizations, and so that's why we're just having a little bit of a time constraint. I think the Wednesday at 2:30 was because every Wednesday we get out at 2:30.
Mhm.
I think we just kept it that way. And I guess I will look back and say, typically, has it been a 12:30 dismissal in the past, or a noon dismissal?
Noon. When we got out half days, it was at
Noon
noon.
dismissals.
So, I mean, if we wanted to keep it that way, and as far as communication, that would be pretty easy to get that out relatively quickly, so.
When I saw the 12:30, I thought, that's gonna be weird, because we've heard noon dismissal, so, I guess I'll make a motion for a noon dismissal on the last day of school.
Second.
Okay, we can continue the discussion. If anyone else has anything to add, we do have a motion on the table and a second. Does anyone else have any additional thoughts or questions that they want to discuss? Are we going to cause any sort of hardship, parents, childcare?
Usually when we do the noon dismissal, sorry to
Yep.
interrupt, but usually when we do the noon dismissal, so Dexel works with us, and we provide sack lunches for all the students who, especially at the elementary, that would like a meal before they leave. We also offer it at the middle school and the high school,
Okay.
and it's just a grab and go. So they will get fed when they leave if they choose to take the food.
Okay, perfect. That is good to know.
I do think we should look at next year's calendar and just make sure that we are cognizant of that.
Yeah,
before
I
we-
think it probably was just a ball dropped somewhere in
Oh, yeah.
communication. And honestly, I mean, things like this, we had set a goal already to work on our relationship with the foundation and communication and collaboration there. So I think this is a great example of probably could have been prevented through communication early on. But also, I mean, a surprise early dismissal at the end of the school year is kind of fun and exciting. So happy accident, I guess. Okay, if there's no more discussion on that, Sheila, we'll go ahead and call that to vote, please.
Angela Blazy,
Aye.
Mitch Wagner,
Aye.
Skip Altic.
Aye.
Joanne Green.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Emily Garrett.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Teachers in the room, congratulations. You have 2 more hours of free time that day.
Well, not really, they're gonna be
Not
start
really.
checking out.
You have 2
Sorry.
more hours to not have to come back the next day. Or later that night, or
Less
whatever it may
students.
be. Yes. Okay, our next agenda item here is the continuation of policy 3023. So at our last meeting, there was some additional information requested. Joanne had asked to see more data as far as vault usage rather than just 1 year. So there is a much more lengthy report there. It is less specific, so it doesn't have the breakdown, just because that is really cumbersome. Thank you, Technology Department, for all of that work, because I know that was a lot of categorizing in that first report. So that information is there for you so that you can see kind of historically those numbers are all combined. Is that correct, Dr. McDonald? Of just total vault searches
Those
for
are
each
just,
year?
yeah, there was over 3,000 and some, so it's just total based on each year.
Each year,
So,
okay.
yeah.
So that information is there for you to review. We also have had some concerns brought forward, and I mentioned this at our last meeting, that we were kind of pushing pause on discussing the security camera piece of things. There were some concerns brought forward on that portion of the originally drafted policy, that having too cumbersome of a documentation process might discourage staff from using that. And so we obviously don't want to have an unintended repercussion of our schools being less safe. That's certainly not the idea in looking at a policy like this. So that was one concern that was brought up. Also needing to more clearly identify what's considered like routine use versus reactive use to a more serious situation, who we would want to have access to those types of things. And then we've got Officer Johnson here. We've also got Mr. Tegmeyer here. Do you guys have anything specific? Does that cover the basis of your concerns with that initial draft?
It does.
As we're considering how to move forward, do you have
It
anything
does.
else that you want to share? Because we certainly value
I think,
your opinion on that.
I think before I'd say a significant policy change for that would be inquiring of how they're currently being used. I think if the board understood how they're currently being used, it might be better identified to how to write a policy like that. Also, when we're getting to those cameras, there's some liability with that, so I think an attorney may want to review that too, because there could be some liability from this policy depending on what it says.
Sure.
I do have a few concerns with the policy, just the way it's written, but I think that we can work past those concerns. I don't think it's there yet. But I think if we understood the use and how they're being used, I think that would help kind of identify where we need to focus towards a policy.
Mhm. I agree with that completely. So just so everyone knows, the attorney has reviewed this, but that doesn't mean that there's not changes that would need to be made. I think where we maybe struggle, and I would love to hear your insight on this, Officer Johnson, is how to best get that understanding, because my understanding of our current system is there's not any, like, there's not an audit report, or there's not any way that that's being logged, which I know is something we're considering in future systems. But what would be the best way, in your opinion, for the board to really have an understanding of how that's used?
Well, first of all, I want to say, I agree there needs to be oversight. I mean, transparency and stuff like that. And you're correct. You know, the current system that we have now, does not have the capabilities to lock that. Now, there are systems, which I know during our safety meetings, we have been talking about some of our camera systems because they are getting outdated. That is a cost. But newer systems do provide some of that. And that would be ideal, because in that way, when you log into it, everything's just being recorded. You know, the big concern of, it's not the documentation that has to be sent in. These building principles, they are maxed out. And, you know, between alarms going off in the building, vape detectors, doors being breached and stuff like that, these videos are being used all day long, constantly. Putting a paper system in there to explain, you know, when, why, how, and the detail about that. You got to remember too, cameras are a preventative nature too. And if we're only using the cameras only to react to something, and we don't have people watching those cameras to take preventative measures, and it could be anything. It could be school violence. It could be an inappropriate contact from the teacher to a student. I mean, these are things that we look at, you know, weekly, and these accusations and stuff like that. And by far, the cameras clear a lot of people, but they tell that story. But if we're only going to go be a reactive force to those incidences, that's where I would concern. I think behaviors would increase. I don't want to speak for building principals, but obviously I've been in the schools for quite long. I know what they do. I mean, adding more paperwork, more work for them like that, I think that unintentionally, I don't think that's the intent of this policy, but I think that unintentionally makes it a little bit more of a reactive.
Right.
Because if I was that principal, and I'll use the high school for example, and you got alarm going off, you know, 15 or 20 times a day, I'm not going to get on there and look at the camera, because what do I have to do? Now I have to write down this type of stuff.
Right.
So it's not feasible, but I agree there needs to be some transparency and how that process moves forward.
And for me, that might be where we need to more clearly define, because the things that you're referencing, like in my opinion, those are routine roles of a principal in a building. So those aren't even in my brain things that it's like, oh, you need to document this, because to me that's what you do when you're the principal, especially of a secondary building, I think, in particular.
Right.
But that's where the language needs to be very clear so that those individuals don't feel like
And I agree, and I think that's where we can maybe, you know, help the board just kind of identify how they're being used. Because, you know, the way that the proposed, the way it's written, you know, my concern is, quite frequently we'll get complaints about teachers inappropriately touching and not like sexually, I'm talking about harming them, or they pull their arm and now the student's complaining of pain, or we get a parent that the child gets home and the parent says, hey, this is what my child's telling me. We go to the cameras like that. And I will tell you, 99% of those did not occur the way that the student, which benefits that teacher. But there's that 1% where it doesn't, and it does occur. It occurs in all school districts. So even doing that, but then you're looking the way the policy is written is, well, now this teacher can potentially get into trouble. So now that moves the way it's currently written as far as when was the video documented, what the purpose was the first time. And that's where I think those two paragraphs that we had talked about, they kind of conflict each other. Not to conflict, but they're kind of go against each other. So I think there's some movement in that. But I think a better understanding of how they're currently being used. I'm more than happy to speak with anybody on the board how we currently use those. You guys can reach out to me anytime. You know, I suggest talking to building principals. They're the structure of that whole building. They know how those cameras are used. So I think speaking to those types of people might better understand how to drill down that policy.
Yeah, I agree with Officer Johnson, you know, the camera system that's used, not only it's in the moment, what's going on in the moment, we're looking at stuff, but also reviewing footage of, you know, fights, vaping, vandalism, that student and staff misconduct. There's a lot of things that you have to consider, but it's about keeping the kids safe, staff safe, and so, yeah, just don't want it to be an extra burden on our already really busy principals that they have to document. Now, there may be certain situations where it needs to be documented, but maybe more clearly how that needs to be documented. So I did have some other concerns just with regards to the vault section, though, too, I want to bring up.
Okay.
With regards to the approval process, I agree for vault searches on staff, when you're investigating a staff situation, I think that probably should go through the superintendent and the associate superintendent. But in the area of when we're looking at students, I do feel that currently those requests are coming from our principals and our other directors saying we need to do an investigation into this student, student-to-student communication. And so I do think that should stay where it's at as far as the approval. Just overwhelming, I guess, the superintendent with requests of things. We get a lot of those. Also, when a list of reasons why the vault can be accessed, one thing that's not, I think it's true, it didn't list, something that we use often in tech is if we have a phish attack on a user, often in this last case, it was late at night, it was 9 p.m. To discover we needed to get in there and find out what the phishing email was, and so to have to call the superintendent in those times, you know, if we had an exception for those kind of things, it's just kind of an expedience thing that we'd want to be able to access quickly. So, but I think, you know, all that access to vault, you know, it can be documented by the tech department. So, you know, I think that part of it is still going to be doable as far as documenting the vault.
If it's like a phishing issue, I think tech should be able to go into that no matter what time to get that cleared up.
Yeah, I asked last meeting that we wanted to hear from you two gentlemen specifically, and I liked exactly what both of you said. This thing really needs a big overhaul, in my opinion. It is too confining, and I said that in my mind, it's way too confining. So I think if we're going to create a policy, we need to do one that is not going to and I use that word, hamstring us with this. So we need to work this out. Needs to be totally redone, in my opinion, on the areas that we want to change. Otherwise, I wouldn't vote for it.
I think we probably need to break down like the type of requests, and that I think in part is what would happen in the procedures manual that we had kind of discussed about, which would be more at the administrative discretion to create that. But if we need to add a level of that into the policy, like I'm absolutely fine with doing that. I think the initial reason that the policy was a little bit more vague and shorter was because we didn't want to get too specific in policy, and we wanted to leave some of the specifics to the procedural side of things. But we also don't want the opposite to happen, to where it's too vague and then nobody knows what to do with it. So I think that those are good suggestions to add in there. I am firmly against keeping our policy as it is currently.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't say that.
I'm not putting words in your mouth, Skip. I'm telling you my thoughts, and I'm firmly against leaving it as it is. It does need some changes, because as it is, it actually, technically, I don't know that we've even been following it as it is. So we do need to more clearly define that, but I think these are the kinds of things that we need to work through to make sure it's a policy that works for us rather than a policy that is tying anybody's hands. So I appreciate that phishing example was a prime example.
Mhm.
And I know you guys were working on that because I forwarded you an email at like 9 o'clock at night and you got right back to me. So yes, I definitely see that as important.
Well, and the last thing that I want to see us do is put more on our admin's hands. So,
For sure.
you know, I do like how tech can pull these numbers. I know it's a lot, sorry, but I do like being able to see them. I guess the biggest thing about the vault that I was always worried about is, as a board member, receiving vents or something from staff or parents, and then the next thing I know, they're fired, or something's happening and they're not getting returned phone calls. And that's what I don't like, so that's what I wanted to see. But when it comes to staff and students, after talking to quite a few staff and hearing their replies, like they know that their emails are being looked at. I do think that there should be some paper trail, but I completely understand that. I guess the biggest thing I was concerned about was my email. I'm not sending anything out that you can't read, you can have it all. But if I have a staff member come to me, I want them to know that that's confidential, that I can listen to them and show them the chain of command without throwing their names out in the public.
Mitch, did you get your question answered?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's always a hard thing, right? Like, where are we looking at stuff? Like, what's our purpose? And obviously that does need to be transparent, and, you know, I'm not a huge fan of surveillance of anybody, so that's just me. Dang libertarians.
Well, I share those sentiments, and I struggle with this because I taught in a building that I felt like probably at times was not the safest that it could have been, and I value safety very much. I think there's probably a lot of work that we have to do still in the safety department. I think we can always be getting better. But I also, at the end of the day, like, I struggle a little bit with somebody, especially somebody who's not in a building, just surveilling people all day long, because it's not a prison, it's a public school system. And at some point, you have to be able to balance safety with also a little bit of trust and not being punitive for those that are not doing anything wrong. And I just feel like if you're always waiting for somebody to mess up, they're going to at some point. And if you're watching their every move, I don't know, it just...
And this is Garrett, and that was part to the concern with the video is we ought, as school resource officers, we often view video satellite. So if there's a situation going on at Adams Middle School, it's very common for another school resource officer to bring up the video and watch
Right.
what's going on and stuff like that. So
Which makes sense.
I think that's
like,
another
here.
example that we need to drill down how to use this, because it is necessary to review video in other buildings from another building. But what that context is and by who, I get that. But that is a very regular occurrence. You know, an example, you know, our 911 center has all the schools in the whole Lincoln County. That would be an example. Because they need direct access if we have a large fight breaking out.
Right.
You know, at the beginning of the school year, we had a fight at the high school with over 100 individuals involved. Those cameras were used. They were used
Right.
remotely for those types of situations. So the context, and I think even going back to the emails in the vault, the context is very important. Obviously, I've been in this for many years and worked many investigations with inappropriate relationships with students, employee theft, sexual assaults, and stuff like that. Those are part of those numbers that we're telling you today. So the context of what those emails are is very important. I don't think it necessarily focus on, oh, well, that seems like last year, that's a lot of numbers that we breached, or the school district breached teachers' emails. It's the context of what were they doing. Was it a behavior thing? Was it a criminal thing? Was it that? But if we go just off of numbers and say, can you believe this? I don't think that gives what these people are doing daily justice, because those numbers do tell something.
Right.
They do. When
Yeah.
you break them down, they do tell something.
Absolutely, and that's, I guess that's where the thought process of some level of documentation came from, is because there is currently no context. So believe me, I would love to know the context why board member emails were searched hundreds of times. I would like to know that context. It doesn't exist because we had no process for documenting it. So that's where I don't think that anybody's trying to say there's not a need. Like, I think we see the need. I think it's a system that has been abused, quite frankly. And I think that that has just come from us not really defining how it should be used. And I think that's why we got here. But like, I hear you, and I don't think anyone's
I mean, I can count,
questioning the importance
you know,
of
I know,
that.
you know, an employee that was arrested is very public. You know, if you pull that, those emails, there's probably over 1,500 emails just on one individual. But like I said, what was the context?
Right.
Having sexual relations with a student, that's the context.
And yeah, office administrators reviewing hours of footage on the camera system as well to see what, you know, there was.
That case took a lot.
Yeah.
So I just don't want to make policies that reduce a lot of that
Right.
and puts more work on people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we already have state laws, we already have federal laws that protect students and their privacy with video systems and stuff like that. I would just be afraid to write in a policy that even reduces that down even more, when there's already laws that apply.
One of the first things I do when I work every day is I'll put on the camera system and I'll make sure I'm looking at entrances. I'm not always the first one in the building, but it's you know, oftentimes it's a safety piece. I can scroll through each pod based upon views and ensure that pod is clear and nothing's happening, so that when adults get to the building or students make their way down the hallway. So I mean, just the generality of that, you know, and it's not looking for anything in particular, it's just making sure that the building is clear and safe for folks to come in, right? So just even something really simple like that.
Anything else on this, or any questions that board members have of additional information we'd like before we bring it back?
I guess it might be helpful, I don't know how you would want that reported, but if building administrators were able to give us some examples. I know in my conversations with Mrs. Busher, she's been able to give me some examples, but I know that would be information that you guys would be lacking. So I think if there's some sort of documentation, presentation, whatever, I think that could be really helpful in whatever we decide to do with this moving forward.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I actually requested some of that information probably a couple months ago, but I think having a formal presentation of some sort would be very valuable to the board. I agree.
I just think I'm not ready to vote on this either. I think we need more information.
Oh, yeah, it's not
Yeah.
an action, it's not even an
Oh,
option
yeah,
to vote on.
but I mean.
And
Yes,
I
totally agree.
I guess in that request though, we just need to make sure that whatever's shared doesn't compromise student or staff safety, so.
Yeah, I think it needs to be strictly like, I mean, ideally it would be number data, but we don't have a way to run any reports with number data, so it would need to be fairly generic.
So I'm a little confused. The vault access is replaying something, correct? So it's not like what Mr. Spatansky said, where you come in and you just turn on your monitors in your own building.
Vault is email and files. It has nothing to do with cameras. They're two separate.
Well, what is this policy that I'm reading? Oh.
It has two
Record
sections.
management, okay.
So there's a vault section and a security footage section.
Okay, but we're only talking about things that are happening outside of outside of routine stuff, right?
I think that's
no?
where the confusion is.
Okay.
Like the
The
things
confusion
that.
is routine.
Yes, what do
is
you define
routine?
it as? Yes.
Well, I think everybody has a certain routine, right? I mean, a building administrator has their building, but if, let's say, Mrs. Brocious is watching Cody's school, that's weird, that's not routine.
Right.
But you would have access to all the schools because of your position.
I think
No?
without defining what some of that routine is, especially when it's tied to a policy that where an employee can be disciplined for it.
Gotcha.
I think the concern is what is routine to you is different than what's routine to me.
Right, gotcha.
And if I am an employee of the school district and I do have access to those cameras, and I feel what I'm doing is routine because it's part of my job or it's what I do, or you know what, sometimes something routine just doesn't happen. It might happen once or twice a year. The way the policy is written, well, now that's not routine, so do I need to wait to get approval to do that? Do I need to, can I view it? I mean, that's just where that policy needs some clarity
Okay,
with
yeah.
it. I get what you're saying with the routine thing, but I think then you're tying the hands of administrators in the district because what's routine to one principal might be different routine to another principal, and then that's where you're getting, then there needs to be clarity.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Well, and just, I think as an example, the last 2 weeks, the 4 buildings that I visited, 2 of them have TVs on display in the office with different camera views all over the place, you know, so.
Right. Which I would
but not
consider
every-
that routine for that building.
But yeah, but not every building has that, and so I guess that would just be kind of case in point.
Okay. Anything else on that policy? I suppose if anybody that has thoughts on this would like to help draft language, that would be exceptionally helpful because I hear a lot of comments and things, but I'm not hearing any actually productive suggestions of what to change, which kind of leaves me in limbo of guessing. So if you have specific thoughts, I would value those. Otherwise, I will do my best to hear all of your ideas and try to make language that addresses them. But I would much prefer that this be a collaborative process rather than me continuing to bring drafted policies and hearing complaints. If anyone wants to volunteer to help that, please email me any suggestions you have and I'd be happy to put them in the document. All right, we will move on to our facilities update then at this time. So we started this conversation at our last board meeting. We were presented a list of projects that were on the option list of things to be addressed this summer. So this is just a follow-up to that conversation. Dr. McDonald, do you have anything you want to start us off with, or we turn it over to Mr. Ayers?
Well, on your spreadsheet there, you have, again, the contracted outside agencies as well as some requests for maintenance and costs there. And so Mr. Ayers and I met to go over those. What is highlighted in yellow is our recommendation to move forward with in regards to replacement roofs there, painting requests, electrical and welding in the high school, the kitchen vents and upkeep at the high school, Adams and Madison, extended the parking lot at Buffalo, and then the fence area around Lake. There was one addition to that is that Mr. Ayers has for the tennis court asphalt over at Adams, as far as a parking lot there. That was just updated from our last meeting, so you can kind of see what that cost would be there. And then on the project request for everything maintenance-wise over the summer, the estimate was around $85,000, and so that's in yellow. Our recommendation would be to make sure that all of those get done as well. So roughly the total estimate right now is $615,000. There's $2.8 million in depreciation. So that's kind of the recommendation. I think, Mr. Ayers, I would like you to at least go over the studio project, as I didn't necessarily highlight that right now in yellow. And then you also had an update in regards to the soccer complex at Madison, and maybe some direction there.
Yep.
Yep.
I should make you stand because movement helps brain growth and engagement, but it's all right. So, like Dr. McDonald said, we met and we kind of went over the projects that we thought we could do. Some of these projects are coming in with quotes a lot lower than I estimated at, so don't ever, I'm not a money guy, well, kind of, but not really. So some of the quotes are coming in a little bit less. We had our asphalt guy do the quote on the parking lot. It was about $185,000 to asphalt that parking lot. As he mentioned, we had a request, and this is something that has been talked about for years at Madison Middle School. So if you've ever been on the soccer fields at Madison Middle School, one soccer field's up against the fence right next to the street. And if you know, this winter, we had 2 cars hit that fence and caused about $7,000 worth of damage. You know, luckily it was in the winter, not during the spring when kids are out there. So their benches are up against the fence, and then we have another soccer field next to it. And then we have an old cinder track. If you have been around it long enough, you know that's a dirt track. And then we have a football field that they use. So one of the projects that has been talked about, even when I was at the high school, was taking out part of that cinder track, which has a concrete barrier, and leveling it out with the other grass pieces and being able to extend the grass farther that way. And what that would allow us to do is move those soccer fields, shift them over more towards the west, you know, even 25, 50 feet. So it's more of a safety thing, so our kids aren't up against the fence, and it'll allow more room. The cost of that I couldn't give you real quickly, because I know when we talked about it, the maintenance guys would be able to break out the cement. We went over there, we looked at it, it's about 1.5 feet down. We can take our skid loader, they're cutting pieces. We'd be able to, we wouldn't remove the whole track, we'd only remove probably from curb to curb on that east side. And then Mike Steele out at the college says he knows a lot of dirt guys. And he said they felt like they could do the dirt work pretty reasonable. They'd have to probably take about 1 foot of the cinder track dirt out, because it's been sprayed with Roundup enough that I don't think anything would grow there. And then bring in some topsoil and move some dirt around on the field so they would all level out. And that would actually give us an opportunity to put 3 fields and still have room for safety on both sides. One of the other things that I put on there, and what it is if you ever are in the welding room, they have a storage area above the classroom. Right now there's a big duct, I don't know, it's probably about that big, that goes right through the middle of that storage area, so it's not utilized very well. We got a quote from Snell's, we're waiting on one from AJ's to be able to move it. Just try to, just move it out and around onto the side of that storage area so they could actually utilize that area so they're not so crowded below. But other than that, everything else is coming in, and like you said, we have everything highlighted in yellow that we would ask for at least to get done this summer. And then on the maintenance side, we can probably complete the rest of those. So. And I know we're going to save some money because we talked about concrete pillars. We are going to do that ourselves. So we'll cut the cement, we'll put those in so that and it's really only supplies that we'll need for that. So
That's over at the high school.
yeah, over at the high school.
And do you feel comfortable, so I noticed there's 4 roofs on here that you don't have on your highlighted yellow. You feel okay about waiting a year on those?
And when I talked to Joe said, in a perfect world, it'd be great to replace them now, but they're in good enough shape that we probably do not have to replace them now, but it would be in conversation for next year for sure to make sure those are done, and then look at the other roofs. The ones that are highlighted in the yellow are the ones that have the pinholes in them, or just like example, Lincoln #1 roof is above the gym. Well, it leaked just yesterday with all that rain. So we had to send Joe over there. So, you know, the ones that are in the yellow need to be done. The ones that aren't could probably wait for a year.
Those ones that can wait, they're still under warranty, correct?
They won't be.
No, they won't.
Until July.
July. They're under warranty until July, and but they're also still in pretty good shape. And I think that's kind of where the ifs and buts go, because if we would have done roofs last year, this wouldn't even be a conversation.
Right.
It's nice to do roofs under warranty because all you have to do is pay for the the labor and not the materials. But as Joe said, don't replace roofs that don't necessarily need to be replaced either, because that could create other issues too. So, but I feel comfortable with those roofs not being done. The other ones that you see aren't under warranty, so that's where the cost is so much.
When
So
you do that
just-
many,
oh.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just to be clear, so the things in yellow are the things you wanna contract out, and everything else you think
The
you
one,
can do in-house?
okay, so there's two tabs on the bottom. One says contracted, one says maintenance. Under the contracted, everything in yellow is everything that we would like to complete.
So that's page 1, that's contracted. Page 2 is,
They don't
would
have that
be,
spreadsheet.
Oh, sorry.
It's just this here, front to back. You're good.
So, yeah, so everything that's, you won't see it. So, for example, if you just go to the contracted side,
It says contract at the top. These are the yellow ones.
I can show.
And then this is just maintenance.
Okay, so the second page
Right.
then.
We'll just
Okay.
share,
Yeah.
you guys can see it.
sorry about this.
I think we have the same information, it's just,
Yeah. Just
instead
page
of
one,
tabs,
page two,
it's
it's
pages.
tab.
We just weren't following you, but I think
Yeah.
we are now.
Okay.
Oh, so why isn't it not working now?
It's, yes, extended, needs to go to be.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so anything that's in this yellow, this is the stuff that we would recommend okaying. Like the painting, I'm getting quotes from a painter already. He's just gonna give me quotes by building and by project. The electrical thing came in about $12,000 less than we thought it would. The outlets for the welding room, and that allows them to use more instead of having to plug in, plug out all the time. The kitchen upkeep is just normal. They come in, they clean the hoods, they clean the vents. It's things that we have to do for the State Department anyway. Parking lot at Buffalo, for safety reasons, and to kind of extend that parking lot. And then the fence at Lake came in about $6,000 less than it was originally, and they will build that. And like I said, the reason that they're doing it is because of wires, septic tanks, and everything else, so they're insured to do all that stuff.
It's not very often that your quotes come in less than you think they're going to.
Well,
Thanks for
that's-
the good news today.
That's why I said I'm bad at numbers, because I'm thinking, okay, I see these bills and okay, this is what it is, but it wasn't, so. And then on the maintenance side, we're asking to go ahead and do all these projects, just because most of it is gonna be completed by us. And like I said, these are just rough estimates. I'm going to be willing to bet that everything's gonna probably come in at or below what I put down. Obviously, hopefully, it rolls over from what I did before. So those are things, again, that are just normal things that have to be done just for the upkeep of the buildings.
So just on the welding room ventilation, that's not something that needs to be done. It's something that they were hoping would get done, but it's not necessarily.
Yeah, what they wanted is so, and I don't know how much it would cost, because right now we have ventilation that's up in the ceiling and it runs. What he wanted to do is run ventilation in each welding booth and then have levers So now you're talking a lot more money because now you have to run more pipe, a lot more things. I don't even want to guess how much that would cost, but it would probably be quite an expense just to be able to run more ventilation that way. Now the ductwork itself, moving it so they have more room up above, I don't know. We had Snell's and AJ's give us a quote on that. And then the last project that we didn't do, but it's the studio project that the high school was asking to create. So if you're in a learning center, I won't call it a pod, because I know that makes Mr. Altig crawl. We'll call it a learning center. But in the 1200s Learning Center, the media production team wanted to build their own media production room. Sounds great in all dandies. Had Nebraska Fire and Safety come over. Our sprinklers, yeah, you guys don't have them, come into the roof like normal. To be able to do that, you would have to actually dismantle it and move them so they point up instead of down. And he gave me a quote of $15,000, and he said that's being generous. And so that kind of gives you an idea. Lights and electrical, we'd have to move all the lights. We'd have to have somebody come in and rewire the lights. HVAC, what people don't know is those pods or learning centers are balanced HVACs, and the balancer is in the middle of the room. So if you would happen to take that and move it and make it a room, you're going to have to move the HVAC to the outsides and to balance it that way, and then pump air into that room. So that's going to be an expensive cost. Construction of building the walls, getting them up, getting them framed, to fire code, and then miscellaneous. So $85,000, I tell you, is probably pretty generous. Just because I kind of have an idea of now better what HVAC and stuff is going to cost. So that's why we kind of put that one on hold. To me, that's a want and not an actual need right now.
Well, and I wonder if that's something, I know when I had visited there, and obviously owning a video production company, like, I got excited about that, of course, and Mr. Willie and I were talking a little bit about his hopes and dreams, but we also talked about, there probably would be, especially if the foundation were to help with that, there probably, I know our business would make a donation to sponsoring something like that in our high school. So I'm wondering if there's just a temporary pause on that, if there could be some community involvement, but also if we're looking at potentially down the road making some changes at the high school entrance for safety reasons, perhaps some of that construction can happen around the same times. And I don't know that there would be cost savings, but there at least would be maybe less disruption and those types of things happening. So.
And I would agree. I would think that it's something that could be on pause, and then, and Phil talked to me about it, and I said, if you get donations and can offset it a little bit, then that, that's okay. It's just right now, it's an expensive project.
Any questions, board?
So all of these things contracted, I mean, like the roofing, I understand, but like the painting and stuff, we can't do or have our PTOs or anybody volunteer for?
Just the size of the projects, you're talking like a Madison kitchen and cafeteria, you're talking classrooms, you're talking a lot of different areas that are big and bulky, and it's kind of like giving back to a teacher, because it's teachers that actually come in and they do paint it, and so. And the smaller projects that need touch-up, our guys will do. We just don't have the time in the summer to dedicate to painting larger projects.
You've got concrete pillars to.
Yeah, we got to cut out some concrete pillars.
All right, anything else for us?
I don't think so. I think we're just looking for a little directive here in regards to, I know that, I don't know when the drop dead day is to say, we can get this done over the summer, but it's.
So just for an example, when Dr. McDonald and I talked, we talked about the carpet projects. You know, that's something that probably needs to be done in the classrooms. Well, when I called the company, you're talking, we're getting our shipment mid-June, almost to July. Luckily enough, we have enough on hand that we can at least get part of or some of the other rooms done. But to finish them, we're gonna have to wait for that shipment to come in. So we're getting into the area where, you know, the roofs, I gotta probably get hold of Joe so he can get crews ready to go. Painting, I'm not worried about, but the other ones I gotta call and set up times, because if you've ever done construction, then you know that you're on their time and not your time, so.
So do you need an action item at some point, or is this just, go for it?
Well, I guess what I would like is that if you want it as an action item, because you still want to continue that discussion, that's fine. Or if you give a directive that we need to move forward with what we've presented this evening, then we will start making those plans and you'll approve those when they come in.
I would think we need to do that to
Yeah,
get
our
things
meeting's
going.
in 2.5 weeks.
And I don't
Right.
think we need to formally take
No, I
action
just-
because this is, these are things, like, money's been approved already in our budget. So I don't think we would need to take action. I think,
But just to give them approval.
yeah, I mean, I think that
So like
what
in
you've
the-
presented is very
Just kind of give you
reasonable.
some context. So when the buildings, so like last year, each principal had their own budget, they had their own depreciation fund until all the depreciation fund went together into one pot. So like in Adams, we're gonna do 3 rooms of carpet at $3,000 a piece. So what would happen is we would do them and then we bill Adams Middle School, then it would just automatically come out of their depreciation fund. So just to kind of give you some context, that money was there,
Right.
it's just in a different way now, so.
Yeah,
Now, I
and
wouldn't-
honestly, this is even more involvement than I think the board has had. It, like,
In a long time.
yeah, I know last year you gave us a presentation in the summer of what the summer projects were, and I think was very eye-opening for some of us to see all of that. And I appreciate, like, I think these are things that we need to know, but I also don't think that you have to have I don't think we need to take formal action. I think what you have here is a great plan, and unless I'm hearing any concerns
No,
from board members,
go
I
ahead.
would say,
We're just trying
You know
to,
better than we do.
we're trying to be frugal,
Yeah.
but also, I'll use Plainview for an example. They're trying to pass a bond. They haven't updated their buildings in 20 years, and now things are falling apart, and the community doesn't want to.
right.
So, I
We do
mean,
not wanna
we
do
don't
that.
want to get to that point where it's going to cost more money in the long run, so.
Right. And I appreciate this spreadsheet. It's fantastic. It just kind of gives us an idea of what we're looking at every year.
So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Sheila, roll call, please.
Rich Wagner,
Aye.
Skip Ballsey.
Aye.
Joanne Green. Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Emily Garrett.
Aye.
Angela Blaze.
Aye.
All right.